What's up, everybody, and welcome to Rave in Review, where we rave about and review any and all things pop culture and anything that interests us. I'm Kaya, and you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at kaya.r.pennington, and you can follow Rave in Review on Twitter and Instagram at rave_and_review. Now, unfortunately, my lovely co-host Brianna was unable to join today. However, we don't think that should stop you guys from receiving our content, so I'm going solo to entertain you guys. And with that, let's get into our first segment, Twitter Conversations, where we discuss trending threads on Twitter. Today, we're talking about a woman who posed naked in her college graduation photos in front of the college, in front of their mascot statue. Now, it was a very creative photo. Obviously she was in the nude, but like she had her back to the camera and only her head turned that way, so you saw her face and you saw her butt. And she had this Medusa cap on. Their school's mascot is a snake, I believe, so she had this Medusa cap on that had snakes spiraling down her back, and she was in heels. I think they were red bottoms, and it was actually like a really creative photo. But she got a lot of flack for it, and I've seen a lot of people talk about where if they're going to take away her diploma, they need to reimburse her, which is true. But I want to say here that I have not seen credible sources that say she's gotten her diploma taken away. However, I do think we need to stop acting like there aren't consequences for these kinds of things. I do want to say here that in different cultures and whatnot, being nude in public is not that big a deal, but in America it is. And that doesn't mean that everyone knows that, but there is a such thing as indecent exposure that, depending on the state and depending on what exactly you're doing, you can be fined, you can be arrested, you can be put on the sex offender registry. There are real consequences to this. Personally, I don't see the hype about being naked in public. Now, I get, if you have to breastfeed in public, pop your girl out, do what you gotta do. I get if you want to show your chest, your shoulders, your legs, I get that. But to be completely nude? Now, the woman in the photo captioned it as if it was like a body positivity thing, which it could have been. But to me, that does not scream body positivity. Just because you're comfortable to do it, that's great. But not everyone consents to seeing that. And I know people want to have all these debates about what consent actually is. But let's put it in another situation. Let's say there's two people in a movie theater doing adult activities. Not everyone in that movie theater consented to hearing that or seeing that. And it makes people feel uncomfortable, and it's indecent exposure. And again, you can be fined, you can be arrested, you can be put on the sex offender registry. Now, again, I haven't heard any credible source saying that her diploma was taken away. If it was, she does need to be reimbursed. I do think that's kind of unfair. But again, I haven't heard anybody really talk about that. But also, that's not really the worst of her problems. Her major, I believe it was counseling education. If you go on the registry, what education are they going to allow you to teach? I think it's weird. I'm not trying to be like a nudist purity, but there are so many germs. We are in a coronavirus pandemic that hasn't gone anywhere. We're still in a pandemic, and now monkeypox is added to it, where if you come in contact with the wrong thing, now you got warts all over your body. And then not even just that, but all the germs, STDs, STIs, because people don't wash their butts. People are doing this kind of stuff and not being sanitary about it. There are just so many germs that, for me personally, that's why I don't care for being nude in the public, because it's so much to make me itch. But that's just me. Again, I hope they didn't take away her diploma. If they did, they do need to reimburse her, but also there are consequences for this. And I know, different cultures, and we don't know what her culture or anything like that is, and what her stance on being nude in public is, but I just I don't know. Like I need that's a certain demographic people do that and they can get away with it and we can't because the consequences are always harder for us. And it's unfair, but that's how it is and we need to stop acting like it isn't. That's just me. And then, I just don't care for being nude in public. But if I saw this in person, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I'd turn my head away from it because maybe it wasn't for me to see, even though she's doing it in public. That don't mean I necessarily have to see it. It just necessarily wasn't for me. But that's just how I feel on it. And with that, I'm gonna switch it up into the tropes that we wish would die segment. And today I am talking about the step sibling trope, the step sibling romance trope, which is pretty self-explanatory, but if you don't know what it is, it's where step siblings fall in love. Personally, I find this trope utterly disgusting, especially if the two characters have been like step siblings since childhood. Like if they've been in each other's faces since childhood, y'all in my eyes are basically blood relatives or relation, and that's just gross. That's incest. That's gross. And even if they haven't been in each other's faces since childhood, y'all are gonna be connected by relation until one or both of your parents or whoever it is dies. So they'll meet for the first time and be like, "Oh, you kind of cute. I know our parents are getting married, but let's get it on and get him some step grandkids." What? I'm sorry. People who write this trope are disturbed. People who read this trope are disturbed. As a writer, you could put any obstacle in the way to temporarily block your main characters from getting together. And people will legit sit there and be like, let's make the obstacle that they may be cousins, or that they are half siblings, or full siblings, they may be full siblings, or that they're just step siblings. True love conquers all, so they'll get over it. What? I'm sorry, that's utterly disgusting. People who write this trope, people who read this trope need to be on some kind of FBI list because that's gross and not okay. And if you're writing it, for me, honestly, you can't tell me you haven't thought about it with a step sibling or a sibling before, because there's no reason you should be writing about people who are somewhat related getting together. You've thought about it before and it got you going, and that's gross. This trope needs to be hit by a bus, electrocuted, hit by a car, a train, thrown into the ocean for the sharks to feed off its carcass. It's disgusting, it's disturbed, and I just don't see why people enjoy reading it. And I try so hard not to shame people or kink shame people because, like, what gets you going. And I have nothing, it ain't for me. If it don't apply, let it fly. But to sit there and write a trope about people who are connected by relation, what happens when the parents or whoever it is finds out? Are they just supposed to be okay with it? They'll be like, "Oh, it's all right, we're not gonna get divorced, but we can't stop them because the heart wants what it wants, and true love conquers all, and it was meant to be, and they're fated." You guys are insane. I will never read this trope, like, ever. Like, if I see somebody recommending this trope to me, I question them. If I see it in a description of a book that might look interesting, I question that, and I don't go near it. It's disgusting, and I need people to stop this. This trope needs to die. Kill it. Please stop. Please. Anyway, shoving along into our segment Swapped, where we each give the other a piece of media that we want them to watch or review. And we'll sometimes do this in like a 2-part series. If Brianna was here, we do mine first, and then the next week we do hers. As it were, though, since our schedules aren't compatible and I don't know when we'll be able to do it together again, we're just gonna do mine, and hopefully next time we can do hers. And if we won't, If we can't, we'll just come back with a different segment until we can. So the piece of media that Brie gave me was the 2006 anime series Death Note. Now, Death Note follows Light, who finds a Death Note, which is it's a Death Note. It's a notebook where you can write somebody's name in it, and shortly thereafter, it'll kill them. Now, you can write specific details on how you want them to die, or if you don't write any specific details, it'll just kill them via a heart attack. Now, these death notes are the books of the Shinigamis, who are death gods. And so we see Light take on the Kira persona, and we see him try to cleanse the world of bad and evil so that he can become the new god of the world. My thoughts are as follows, and I will be reading verbatim from my notes, so you will see me looking down because I have a lot to say about it. Now, I was informed by Brie that this was top tier anime for a lot of people after I had already watched it. And so, I'm not gonna say it's not top tier, but it has a long way to go. It could be improved. It could be improved. I think it was decent. I think I might have liked to see a slower descent into madness for Light. But even still, I don't even know how you pull that off, because right off the bat, we see him get the death note, and then like that's it. We don't really see his morals. Like, I guess we kind of do, but that's after he gets the death note. So there's a moment where he gets the death note and he's like, who am I to be judge, jury, and executioner? And then he just goes on a killing spree, and that's it. We don't really see his morals outside of that. And it does bring up that age-old question that society seems to be obsessed with, which is, do morally corrupt people deserve to live? Should they die? If I can save humanity by killing off a few bad apples, is it worth it in the end? So Light was an interesting madman to watch. He got crazier with each episode, and he was mad smart. He was at the top of his class, very intelligent. So he got crazier, and you could see like the methodical thinking. So he was interesting to watch. Now, L, who is this worldwide known brilliant detective, he's right up there with Light in the mind. Like, he's really smart. He creeped me out. He was very much weird to me, which I know is the point of his character. Like, he's supposed to be a little weird. Like, he sits all hunched and bent over, not because he has some ailment keeping him from sitting up, but because he thinks it helps him, sit better or think better. And so with that said, with the knowledge that there is nothing from keeping him from standing up straight, from sitting up straight, sit up. Sit up. I do not know why that irked me so bad, but it did. Go catch a few Z's to get the bags from under your eyes, and do close up those bug-like, big, soulless eyes a little. Like, for my OG Yu-Gi-Oh fans, which, by the way, just want to mention it, RIP Kazuki Takahashi, thank you for always teaching us to believe in the heart of the cards. But for my original my OG Yu-Gi-Oh fans, tell me L don't remind y'all of what it looked like to be in the Shadow Realm. That's exactly what he puts me in the mind of, with those big soulless eyes. Like, that's it. And then his concept is all dark and moody. That's exactly what he puts me in the mind of. And he creeped me out more than the Shinigami does. I forget what Light's specific Shinigami's name was, but the Shinigami are really tall creatures, and they're somewhat hunched over. And Light's Shinigami, he's moody clothing too, and he has razor sharp teeth, and he's supposed to look scary. And Light L creeped me out more than the Shinigami did. And then there's that whole scene where he's massaging Light's feet, which was just mad weird to me. And the concept there is that, it's Jesus massaging Judas' feet right before Judas betrays him. But that's not how I saw it. Because Judas was Jesus' apostle. He spread his word, he followed his word, and they were really close. Light and L were not. They were adversaries, and they knew that. Like, there was no close relation. There was nothing to suggest a betrayal was coming, or that, anything like that, because they didn't have that close relationship. They were not brothers or friends or anything like that. They were adversaries. They knew that. So for this to be like, oh, it's hinting at a betrayal, or it's coming. There was nothing to betray. There was nothing to suggest a betrayal was coming, because they didn't have that close relationship. I saw this scene as some weirdly sexual thing, and it just made me itch. And not because it was a potential gay scene, but because L is mad weird to me, and he makes me itch, and the whole scene had me squirming, and it made me very uncomfortable, because I was like, this is weird. This dude is weird. Like, come on, like, you'd honestly rather caress Light or L's face versus Misa's. I know L is Light's intellectual equal, but at least Misa's body looked like it'll actually offer you physical body warmth. And then Light got upset when Anne, who equally creeped me out but was one of L's apostles, wore a mask that was supposed to represent L. Like, that was just weird. Now, Misa was probably my favorite character. I felt sorry for her, and she was childlike and kind of stupid, but at the same time not. So Misa was Light's non-girlfriend. Like, she finds him, and he's very upfront about, hey, I can't love you like that or even like you like that, but I can pretend. And she still holds out hope that he will, but she also knows that that's not what it is. Now, she finds a death note. She figures out how to use it. She uses impulsive tactics, but still somewhat smart tactics to find him. And, when she was involved in their planning, she played her part perfectly. When she went off on her own planning, which again was impulsive, the plan still worked. Like, I don't think that Misa was like, childlike, or, I mean, she was, but at the same time not. I think she was smart. She just needed it to be tuned. She needed a little training. Because, like, in our episode 2, when we were talking about Netflix's You, and Bree brought up how she wished the show would have followed Love instead of Joe, and I said that Love was not on Joe's methodical level of thinking. Well, Misa's not on Love's methodical level of thinking, but she could have been with some writing changes. The same way Love could have been on Joe's methodical level with some writing changes. Like, after 5 years of living with Light, and then 5+ years of being together, even somewhat, it's just like, you're telling me she learned nothing? Unbelievable. I don't believe it. And then again, she wasn't stupid. She just needed to be tuned. So it's unbelievable. And also, I dislike her death. After Light's death, she commits suicide, and it's just like, this dude was giving you the Richard, and it couldn't have been that good. Like, come on. But I also do think that Light somewhat cared for Misa. And I know people will debate this, but he never once thought about, in the anime series anyway, killing Misa. Like, even when she lost her memory of the Death Note twice, he never once was like, your usefulness is gone. Now, the other girl he was messing with, Nakia, I forget her name. After a few weeks, he was like, yeah, your usefulness is gone. And he kills her. But then he calls out for both of them when he's dying. But to me, him calling out for Misa actually meant something. And honestly, I see their relationship as like somewhat similar to Vegeta and Bulma's in the very early stages of their relationship, when it was just passion. And even though Light doesn't really show any passion, I could be wrong, but that's the vibe I was getting. That's the vibe I was getting. I could be wrong, but that's what I was getting. And speaking of Dragon Ball Z, now, people who know the Dragon Ball Z lore, and for me personally with the anime that I've watched, Dragon Ball Z seems to drag some things out that just have no business being dragged out. And the Death Note beat Dragon Ball Z in dragging stuff out. Like honestly, some stuff was just dragged out and overplayed, or just over dramatic. Like Light falling all over himself and all over L when L died. Like, I know the methodical reason as to why Light did that, but overkill, dramatic. And then those scenes that anime in general are famous for, which is like replaying a specific scene 3 times from a different angle with dramatic music, some scenes did not need that. Just dramatic. The show, honestly, to me, should not have been 37 episodes. I know anime has longer seasons than regular animation, but again, I just felt like some stuff was dragged out. Um, and I also think that Light's death was just anticlimactic and predictable. Like that whole crazed, oh, this is a trap, you're trying to trap me, to the calm, yes, I did this and I'd do it again because I did it for the greater good, to the madman, I'm gonna kill you all, to the desperate running from his death. Dramatic and anticlimactic. You know what would have been interesting and unpredictable? If Misa somehow got her memories back or retained them altogether, because we see her be favored by 2 gods, so it's not so out there that she'd be favored by a third one. And she finds Light, she follows him or finds him and kills them all when Light's plan fails, and she saves him, and then she turns on him and be like, why shouldn't I kill you? And then kind of bargain for a better relationship or something. I don't know how you play that off, but like, again, I just don't like her death. I think it really didn't make sense given I just the death was anticlimactic and predictable, and I honestly think Misa could have played a bigger part in those last few episodes, especially seeing that we see her be favored by 2 gods. She could be favored by another one. It's not so out there. That's just me. I also don't feel like it needs to be a live action like Netflix is reportedly planning to do. And not just because America seems to have like a worldwide record for messing up anime live actions. I'm sure this could be just as interesting as you. I just don't necessarily think it needs to be one. But on the flip, I'd probably check it out anyway. And so with that said, I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10 to a 7.5 out of 10. And that's being generous because there's room for growth, for improvement. If they do get around to making the live action, make Misa more useful. Like, make Misa just as scary as Light. She don't gotta be on his intellectual level, but she don't gotta be that childlike either, especially since you actually see her be smart. It's just y'all playing it off for I don't know, just do something great with Misa. Do something great with Misa and make Light's death not so anticlimactic. Also, I just want to say this. I don't think the show should have followed Misa or that she would have become the new Kira. Again, I don't think the show should have been 37 episodes. But, and I'm fine with the Shinigami taking Light out. I just feel like something else needed. It was anticlimactic and it was predictable, and Misa should have played a bigger part. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Death Note. Those are my ratings on Death Note. So with that, I will skedaddle us into the What's in the Headlines, which is our last segment. And today we are talking about Black Panther Wakanda Forever trailer. We're talking about Beyonce dropping her Renaissance album and also getting in trouble for using a certain word. And we are also talking about Will Smith's apology video. So, starting with the Black Panther trailer, I've only watched it twice. Once when it came out and once just before recording, just so that it'd be fresh on my mind. And I'm really hyped for it. I think it looks good, and I think the music hit right in the feels. And yes, I'm looking at my notes because I have to stay on point. And I also think this film is as much about mourning T'Challa's death as it is about mourning Chadwick Boseman's, which honestly needs to happen. Like, I've seen a lot of people be like, oh, recast Black Panther or recast T'Challa, Chadwick would have wanted that. You don't know what that man would have wanted. 1. 2, obviously Marvel is gonna recast Black Panther, and they may even recast T'Challa eventually. But right now, these actors need to mourn. We as the audience need to mourn because 3, they are human. We are human. Like, This is a conversation. I'm kind of going to blur the lines, but it's a conversation that I really hope we can talk more about on this channel. The dehumanization of celebrities and how we need to humanize them. This is a project that they all started with Bozeman, and then they lost him so suddenly, like everyone else did. And now they have to film this without him. The writer had to possibly rewrite the entire script so that the mourning could be added in. And then in mourning T'Challa's death, some of these feelings may blur into actually mourning Bozeman's death. Like, this needs to happen. Like, I don't understand how people don't understand that. Like, when Wanda was like so cruel and MOM, like her character changed from WandaVision to MOM, people were shocked. And I think it would be the same if you hit right off the bat with just recast Black Panther, recast T'Challa, like Bozeman wasn't there and he didn't mean anything. We need to mourn. These actors need to mourn. And I don't understand how people don't get that, but I think it needs to happen. And I also think this film is going to be like full of mourning, but I also think it's going to be about rebuilding and how to move on after that. And honestly, I think we need that before we get a new Black Panther. Just my little 2 cents. And so with that, I'm gonna push it into Beyonce and Renaissance. Now, I have listened to the album. I like it. There are some songs that this may seem controversial, but there are some songs that I favor more than others. But regardless of my feelings on it, which again, I like it, don't attack me, Beehive. I know the Beehive is super happy to have it. Now, as far as Beyonce using a certain ableist slur, which I won't say, I will respect that people are offended by it. I will say this, I never knew it was an ableist slur. Like, I had always, like, sure, those early 2000 movies would use it sometimes as like a synonym for klutz or somebody who's really clumsy, but I always thought it meant being hyperactive or energetic or just a little wild, like, why are you yazzing? I'll say yazzing. Why are you yazzing out? Sit still. Or my computer is yazzing out, and Google says it's to lose physical or emotional control, but I also can see how that can be used as an insult to people with certain disabilities, and that's not a word that's really big in my vocabulary that I'm going to argue about it. If you're insulted by it, you're insulted by it. If you're insulted by it, you're insulted by it, and I'm not going to argue. However, words do have different meanings depending on where you come from in your environment, just like how in the UK they use the F slur for cigarettes. Like I said, I always thought it meant hyper energetic or something like that. That's how I learned it from AAVE, African American Vernacular English, or Ebonics. Like, that's how I've always used it. That's how it's always been used when I understand it. And AAVE is a real acknowledged way of speaking, and we need to acknowledge that. But again, there are Black people who are like, hey, this is offensive to me and I don't want you saying it, which again is completely fine. It's not a word that I'm gonna argue about. And if somebody from the UK came over here and said, hey, can I get a F slur, that would offend some people here, because here it means something different. But I just think words have different meanings, where you go in your environment, but also it's not that big in my vocabulary that I'm going to argue against it. But I do think we need to acknowledge that AAVE, it is used differently in AAVE, and AAVE is a real way of speaking, and we need to acknowledge that. But as I've said, if you are insulted or offended by it, then you're insulted and offended by it, and you have the right to be like, hey, please do not use that around me. So I completely understand that. And with that, moving into the very last topic, which is Will Smith releasing an apology video for slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars. I know we all just wish it would die, and I see the irony of giving it attention on our channel, but you know what? It's in the news, it's in the headlines, so let's talk about it. So he came out with an apology video, and he was basically like, when asked why he didn't apologize after slapping Chris Rock after he won, he said he was like let me see what he said quotedly. He said that he was just in a haze. It was hazy. And then he also apologized, and he was like, you know, in no way did I think that was the right way to act in that moment. He apologized to Chris Rock's mother, his family, his friends, his fans. He also said that, you know, his wife Jada Pinkett Smith played no part in his actions, and there it is. And so Chris Rock later came out and he seemed to brush it off. He was like, you know, I'm not even really a victim. I went to work the next day, yada, yada, yada. So, my thoughts on the slap in general, I guess, and the apology, like everyone else, I am tired of it, but also, as unfair as it is, he has to make his apologies. He has to save face and do damage control. And so everyone wants to say, oh, it's not that big a deal, worse has happened, yada, yada, yada. But it is that big a deal? Much like how I looked at the nude in public with a deeper meaning, I'm going to do the same thing here with real world consequences. This was the first time the Oscars was ran by Black people at the head in a long time, if not the first time, period. The award that Rock was presenting, a Black man, Questlove, won. Will Smith himself was nominated for Best Actor, not Supporting Actor, but Best Actor. And then this happens. And people will say, you know, oh, worse things have happened, yada, yada, yada. And that's true, but also, we have to stop acting like there aren't different consequences for us. It's unfair. In no way am I saying that it's fair, but there are different consequences for us. And I'm not even saying that, I'm certainly not trying to paint Rock as a victim. He himself said he is not a victim. I never thought he was. But also, you know, Rock went on The View some while ago and was like, I have nonverbal learning disorder, where sometimes I don't know when I take things too far. Now that's a real disorder, which not everyone knows. Just like not everyone knew Jada Pinkett Smith, had alopecia. And again, in no way am I trying to defend him or look like I'm taking sides, because anyone who knows me, and I'll just throw it out here right now, I have a high belief that Black women are the most unprotected in and out of our community, and that we need to be protected more. However, I just hate when people be like, oh, there's no such thing as a time and a place is on site, because one, time and place does matter. Again, this was a very big night for Black people. And also, for those, you know, if you ain't squared up to that coworker or that boss that's giving you microaggressions, not because you don't care, but you care about the job, because you don't care about that job, but you're trying to get another job before you let loose, because you know time and place matters. It does matter. And I'm not even saying that Smith couldn't have a moment of anger, because he's human. And again, we need to start humanizing these celebrities, because they are human. And we will never know if he truly could not hold his anger back at that moment. But if he could, I really wish he should have, because the consequences are different for us. It's unfair, yes, but there it is. It's different. Now, I think a lot of people looked at Smith as the jester, if you will, which is a harmful stereotype that Black people played in the 1930s. And in no way am I saying that Smith was willingly fulfilling this role, but I think a lot of certain people in Hollywood, white Hollywood, were looking at him that way, and now that's been broken. And so now he has to fix that, and not necessarily fix the gesture role, but now he has to save face before he loses all his roles. And people are be like, well, he has enough money to yada, yada, yada. And that's almost as ignorant to me. That's almost as ignorant as saying, that's almost as ignorant as saying he has to dance for white Hollywood. Because I know that's what it kind of sounds like I'm saying. And I'm not saying he has to dance for white Hollywood, but I do think he needs to make his apologies. Or save face, do damage control. However, saying that he has enough money and he'll be fine is ignorant and dehumanizing. because this is his livelihood. And again, let's place it in real world context. Let's take away his name and say it was somebody with a lot of money, but maybe not so big a name, and something like this happens. And now you have people in that area not wanting to work with them. And you can still say, well, they still have all that money, but what if their agent steals that money? What if somehow they lose that money, the bank loses that money? Well, their money can be gone just like that. And then they have no skills to start over. Or maybe they do have skills, but people don't want to hire them because they have a unique name, or because this happened, or because it'll bring certain publicity to them that they don't want. So please don't come at me and be like, oh, he has enough money to yada yada, because that's insulting and dehumanizing too. That's insulting. He shouldn't have to, just like he shouldn't, a lot of people feel like he shouldn't have to save face. He shouldn't have to rely on his money. He should be able to work if he wants to work. So please don't misunderstand me. I hate that, he stepped down from the Academy and then got banned 10 years from the Oscars. I hate that people are trying to use this against him and shun him. I hate that he can't seem like he can't have a moment of anger or like a human emotion. I really do. Don't misunderstand me. But the consequences are different, and we can't publicly act out like they can. Like, I hate it for him. I really do. But, we as normal people will never have as much to lose as those celebrities. Again, I'm not trying to dehumanize them, and I know how that seems a little dehumanizing, but even being Black in America or around the world, I think, and don't take it to heart, because obviously there are other things to take into account, but outside of our lives and the lives of our loved ones, I do not think we have that much, because they could lose their livelihood, they could lose their money, and then just slowly stop getting roles, stop getting jobs, and it's that much harder. I guess they become a quote unquote regular person. So, and when you're not used to that in a while, I know it sounds a little superficial, but it's hard. He has to save face. He has to do damage control. I think when stuff like this happens, a lot of people need to do damage control, not just like us BIPOC, but like a lot of other people. But with the BIPOC community, we have to do much more, and it sucks. But there it is. Those are my thoughts on that. And with that, that is what's in the headlines. And that's the show. Thanks for listening and watching. If you like our content, please be sure to like our content. Subscribe, share with all of your friends and family. That helps us a lot. Also, leave a comment in the comment section down below. Be respectful, because we respect. We respect that. We respect that. But do leave a comment on any of our segments. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you'd like to see next, or anything like that. That also helps us a lot. And with that, see you next time.